Freak absolutely enjoyed that game because 3 Triforces were built and used effectively. Also, right out of picks and bans, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, as we went into the pause, that the Shen was huge and the Ahri was open. Mani, I know you want to get in on this.
I'm actually really excited about the picks and bans here because I think this was a really good coup by Sword, and we can see how it played out as well. Basically, Sword had the superior 5v5 as well as the superior split push. You got to say they baited that Shen right now, because even if Shen and Jax had gone even in that lane, Jax would have come in. Now, what this did was it made SK Telecom's composition very one-dimensional. They needed picks. And we saw Faker getting the early home guard much earlier than he normally buys it on Ahri, because he had to be there to make the picks. And then we saw that trap get laid for him, and that put him even further behind because he had to spend the money on home guard. And they really just read SK Telecom beautifully here, and a great comp coming out of Sword.
Before we jump into those fights, I definitely want to get the early game. Crepo, lead us through what happened in that early portion of the game.
Yeah, what actually really impressed me is how SKT1 controls the pace. Basically, Leona and Corki got to bot lane first, so they should have a huge advantage. That's actually, I wasn't as impressed by Kane's Leona in the small skirmishes. He played his teamfights really well, but their lane handling wasn't the best. That allowed SKT1 to get back into bot lane. They later transitioned that into a little advantage, allowed Bengi to get a Drake off that. Bengi got stronger, counter-gang bot lane again. So this is this is the flow and the pace of the game that SKT controls so well, up until a point that we'll cover later, where actually Sword comes back in a really good team fight. So their fights were better, but individual small skirmishes, especially bot lane, it seems that Piglet was doing a really good job of getting back into the game.
Yeah, and people would probably wonder, like, why did SKT get all those dragons? The first 2, actually. And big reason for that is that Watch camped top lane and killed Impact, and actually took Impact's tower. But on the flip side, you see Bengi camping bottom lane, killing Leona over and over again, and that's why, because the jungler for SKT is on the bottom side of the map, they're easily able to capitalize on that with the dragon.
And what may have been missed as well, too, is that Faker was doing an excellent job of shoving mid, and he got some really good tower chip in, and that allowed both the mid and bottom turrets, because of what happened in the bottom lane, to go down in favor of SK Telecom. Now, probably a better game plan for them here would to do some deep wards, gain vision control over the bottom side of NaJin Sword's jungle, and try and set up those picks.
Absolutely.
Instead, they engaged in that fight in mid lane, where Mandu got a little bit caught out. And what that caused to happen was their own mid turret to get destroyed, and then with that went the possibility. So if they hadn't gotten caught out a little bit in mid, they would have been able to aggressively ward and pick better in the mid game.
And a lot of this game actually felt a little bit like deja vu for SKT in their first couple of semifinal games against Ozone back in Champions Summer, because the actual same ward bait was used in game 1 there, where Dandy sets up a pink ward and says, Faker, you're going to kill this ward, with Elise, mind you, and kills him there. And the exact same ward happens here, which at the very least tells me that Sword's smart, but also that they probably watched that series like, well, they took 2 games. We could do the same thing. Faker likes to kill wards and makes the same trap. And then also, sort of, we didn't get to talk about this during the pregame very much, but SKT doesn't come back very well in games. And what they've tried to do in those sort of, when they try to make comebacks, is try to force 5v4s. And they've got Shen, they've got Stand United. They're going to try to jump into fights with a numbers advantage, even with a gold deficit. And we've actually still never seen those fights work for them.
Yeah, and Faker was never able to actually get back in the game, because there's nobody on Sword to pick. There's Elise and Jax who have ways to, like, make themselves invulnerable. Gragas and Corki are extremely safe, and normally he feeds off supports. There's a Leona on the enemy team. She's so dangerous, and she's actually so hard to kill that Faker, after he made a misstep twice, overextending and dying in teamfights, he was never able to get back into the game.
And actually, let's pull that replay up on your screen right now. We'll kind of see where NaJin Sword took these advantages, how they kept themselves up top, and really just got the best of SKT in each one of these fights. As we pull this up on your screen, Crepo, take it away.
Yeah, this basically what happens is Mando will get caught here, which actually is a recurring phenomenon during the game. So that's where Sword does a good job. Then SKT tries to counter, gets really aggressive. We can roll the clip already and see what happens. So Mando gets caught, gets Stand United, makes it out alive. He'll eventually walk back into a barrel. He does good Zyro ult, a good disengage. Watch does another really good repel. This is what Kane does good in fights. Disengages, gets the aggro, exhaust on Faker, forces Faker to use everything. But here they get too aggressive, and this is where Expression comes in. You see 2-man stun, Corki comes in, no hesitation. And this is what I really like. Gragas will now E into the fight and then flash to carry on the E impact, which basically shows he's playing with no hesitation. Ezreal barely manages to kill him afterwards, but it just shows that how well Sword plays with no hesitation, good synergy. We saw at least I think 3 of them E flashes from Gragas.
Right, yeah,
Nagne
absolutely.
playing so much better than his previous match.
Yeah, and you look at what happened in that fight as well, is both Expression and Prey were not in the fight for the very beginning. So there were only 3 members of Sword there, and they had to run across the map. And, you know, the early pick happened, nice pick and whatnot, and then the rest of Sword backed off, despite the numbers advantage for SKT, right? Chenault comes in, numbers advantage, and Sword backs off till the reinforcements arrive. And then these guys re-engage with once more the numbers lead here. And that kind of team fight dictating was really good. And I wanted to talk about Expression a lot, because
Triforce.
His Jax was banned all 3 games against Gambit, and
I guess they know why now.
Right, and we had the pause at the beginning of the game, and I'm like, guys, Sword planned this pick and ban. We saw SKT first pick Shen against Gamma Bears, and they're like, you didn't ban Jax. Please first pick Shen. I dare you to first pick Shen, so that Expression could have a field day. And he managed to build a CS lead over a global teleport. Mind you, Expression ran Ignite. He has to walk back and forth across the map, still managed to take down minions, still managed to get into fights. And end of the game, 8-2-4. Expression did amazing that game.
And this comes back into the story we've been telling about NaJin Sword. This is a fantastic patch for this team. Prey has always been one of the strongest Trinity Force AD carries in Korea, and of course, Expression really known for his ability to carry out of that top lane. So it's all coming together now. They look like they've shaken some of the rust off, and I am so excited for the rest of the games in this series.
At the same time, you're talking about this Shen and Jax interaction. I just think Nagne is a really, really key piece into this, because Shen first pick forces you into actually not being able to pick Ahri, because it's really hard to play an assassin into a middle laner like Faker, supported by a Shen ulti. So basically that means Nagne is saying, hey, we're getting him Shen, but I'll have to play against Faker's Ahri, which is really hard. And he picked Gragas, and he did really, really well. He played really impressive in the mid lane.
Yeah, I agree. This game was really dictated by the solo lanes, because you see Nagne, people say like, oh my god, Faker's going to crush this guy. He played a safe farming champion like Gragas. He actually did really well.
Right.
And then you see Expression, he counterpicked Shen. I feel like SKT's game plan coming into the next game needs to be throw their bottom lane under the bus, early pick their bot lane and jungle, and just let their solo lanes counterpick Sword, or else it's going to just be a repeat of the first game.
Final thoughts, Monty Freak?
Yeah, and going back to the Gragas pick as well, Nagne did a great job throughout the game of when he saw Stand United coming in, using his ult to disrupt, and therefore it eliminated a lot of the potential for a Shen engage right there.
I just want to really point out that the way they siege as well, Barrel at one side forces them to group out at another side, and then Expression can go in, pop his E, AoE stun, really good siege power, and Sword play that really well.
Yeah, and all I really want to say is that Doublelift, I think your analysis is right on the money, where you're right, Faker's crazy and he's going to kill you, and so the safe farming pick, I was actually going to say that myself if you hadn't, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to go Chalice Gragas, I'm going to get a Flask as well, and I'll just clear minion waves, clear minion waves, clear minion waves, and so now actually coming into the next game, you almost need to completely switch your ban strategy as SKT and let Faker make plays, remove some of the safe farmers.
We'll see what they do. We'll see if the Faker mind games continue. Right now we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll see if NaJin Black Sword can make it 2 in a row against SKT. Plus, Dignity